and this is very doable now because I don't think we're going to have that much to say about last year. But we do always do a year in review show, you know?
Yeah,
we're actually a little bit behind on it this year, I feel like.
We are. That said, I think I'm going to, in newsy bits of things, find something that's going to distract us. So
okay, so good that our talking point is not that big.
Good that the talking point is not that insane, yes. And I am going to apologize ahead of time. The Buffalo game is on, and I will be frequently checking the score.
Oh, the game is on?
The Buffalo game is on.
Oh, you're a fantasy football person.
Well, fantasy's over, and I've apparently turned into a real football fan. I don't know if you've noticed or not. No. I have a Josh Allen Buffalo thing right here in the back.
Dude, don't you think that you have too many nerdisms at this point? Don't you think?
I know.
I know. Think about the amount of nerdisms you have right now.
I'm collecting them like Infinity Stones.
If I get all 10, I'll be able to snap my fingers.
All I need now is the Warhammer lore.
Oh, no. Oh, you're really committed to collecting them if you go down the Warhammer lore one.
Well, you know what's fucking crazy, though, is I almost started delving down that because I know that's a massive undertaking.
It's massive.
So there was the what's it called? The episode of Secret Level that was like, oh, this is cool as shit. What is this? Oh, this is Warhammer. Okay. And then there is a podcast that I listen to. I've talked about it before, Dungeons and Daddies. They are starting to do a Warhammer one. It's only on their Patreon tier right now, but they did like a first episode teaser for people who don't pay. And I was listening to it. I was like, man, this is cool as fuck. What is this? I'm like, shit, it's also Warhammer. God damn it.
It's gotcha. He's got him. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into this thing then.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zach Rye with Old Man Gaming, and you, dear listener, for whatever reason have decided to listen to another Horrible Gaming Podcast. I am not alone. Usually I am never alone. With me is
Neil, aka Tiny Wizard.
And we're going to be talking about 2024. We always do a year in review show. We have been a little bit behind on all our shows, really.
On literally everything.
Yes, that's me. I say again, everybody.
It's okay. It's okay.
Changed some things in my life that are not, that have been less conducive with doing this than I thought they would be. And I'm trying to adjust to the schedule. But at the very least, we're trying to get these guys out. This podcast, Wizards Breastplate Sanctorum. I'm trying to do a stream a week, and although I don't have a dead set certain on the day, and then of course OMGM comes out for Infinity because me and Jeremy did so many of those damn things. So we're going to do it today. We're going to talk about our year in review 2024. We're going to talk about the ups, the downs of the year, in our opinion. Then we'll do some newsy bits and we'll finish it up. But before we do all that, we got to thank the people who make this possible behind our ugly mugs. You see a custom graphic that was provided by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for this. And then, of course, the theme song for this show and all shows here at Old Man Gaming is provided by the man who makes music, my brother Nick Van Sliders. We thank him for that. We'll be right back with Fan Interaction.
Horrible Gaming.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our first segment, our most important segment. That's Fan Interaction. That's where we, the co-hosts, we talk to you guys, the fans. Read out your comments anywhere. Remember to look for them. So let's do it. Right off the bat, we have Jason. He says, it's too cold to comment this week, which is hilarious because then he comments again. Plus, this is a comment. But then he says, I don't remember what the Space Marine thing, Helldivers 2 angered the LGBTQ hive mind. Which I don't remember that. I straight up don't remember that. I'll have to look into that. Then we move on to William Houlihan. Hi! Exclamation point. Totally fine if you can't do the podcast weekly. As long as I get one episode a week, I'm fine. Speaking of GTA 6 being delayed, I realized last week that GTA 5 is actually a PS3 game released like 12 years ago. Yeah. I'll be real. I'm a fan of the handheld stuff. I'm somewhat interested in the next Switch. I'll keep my eye on it for sure. Thanks for the show. Hashtag I don't know what weekly means. So thank you for your comment, Will. Breaking it down. If you look at Rockstar and when they make games and how long in between they make games, like it's like one game every 5 to 6 years tops. GTA 6 came out like 12 years ago. I think Red Dead Redemption 2 came out like 6 years ago, maybe
something like that.
Like 5-6 years ago. So now we're looking at GTA 6. This is how Rockstar is. They've gotten to this point, which is a ridiculous point. I don't know how they exist, but they've gotten to this point where they could just do that. But that's their straight up like MO. They don't release games. They release like one game in a million years, and it's like supposedly the holy grail. So,
well, stay tuned for more GTA talk because
now I know what you're talking about.
That. You already know what I'm talking about.
Now I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about that in news. Let's save it for news, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Then our final comment comes from Asylum66 commenting again. I didn't know Marvel Rivals was stealing my information. China knows I suck with my favorite Marvel characters. It's not Marvel Rivals, man. It's Marvel Snap. Marvel Snap is the game that went down with Bifers for that like 10-hour period. And I think Marvel Snap's back online. I'm not 100% sure.
Yes, I do believe it is back online.
We're not talking about the hero shooter. We're talking about not talking about the new hero shooter. We're talking about the card game, the collectible card game, the mobile card game. So there you guys go. That's Fantraction. Nice, short and sweet today. If anybody out there has any thoughts, you can comment on it. Stick those comments in there, and we'll read them out. We'll talk about them. So with that out of the way, I think we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we will go right into our talking point, which is our year in review.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our talking point. We're a little bit late on this one, but better late than ever. Year in review for 2024 in gaming. It was a very interesting year. We had a lot of ups and downs. A good, healthy dose of controversy, and a whole lot of bad with people losing their jobs. It was an interesting year, but we're going to decide what we think of the year. I don't remember how we did this previously. We were just talking about it off camera, basically trying to decide whether we gave it a letter grade or we did a good, the bad, the ugly thing or what. So we're just going to fumble through it. So, Neil, thoughts on 2024?
The best thing about 2024 seemed to be 2025. Truthfully, it seems like we kind of knew. We talked about this when we were going into 2024 from 2020. 2023 was that banger year. Mm-hmm. That, almost that like God tier 2016 over again. So we kind of figured that it was not necessarily going to be, a massive hit year. Yeah. So, I think taking 2024 for a lot of the companies and looking at it from we know, I think there was a broad unspoken recognition that 2025 is going to be the year when shit starts to kick back off again. But that on its own, the next year doesn't make a year. Myself personally, it was weird because my games that I cared about were the very beginning of the year with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And then at the very end of the year, we had Sonic and Shadow Generations, and then the new Mario and Luigi game came out. Of course, both of which I hadn't had a chance to play yet, but you know, it bookended everything, and here we are. You know, what happened in the middle?
Yeah. So, if we're talking strictly gaming, I actually had a pretty enjoyable year for a lot of different reasons. Like 2023 was a banger year, but it was one of those years that like there was so much out and so much in the pipeline that it was so hard to play anything. Like I felt like we were always behind the trend. Like no matter what you did, you were behind the trend on what you were playing, what you were talking about, what you were into. Whereas 2024 was a lot more mellow. I got to play a much wider variety of games. Plus, I got to go back to some games that I absolutely loved. And there was some pleasant surprises in there. Look, the controversy of Skull and Bones still exists to this day for a lot of people, but I was pleasantly surprised with how much fun I've had with that game. And I went back to it again, you know, for some deep playing. I have over 200 hours in that game now. Like, that was a pleasant surprise for me. Love or hate the model, I'm not judging anybody for not liking it. I'm just saying that, like, I was impressed. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. And I didn't think I was going to after all the controversy that centered around it. There was some other like interesting releases and drops that I really got to get into as far as the gameplay goes. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm gassy today, everybody. I apologize ahead of time. Age of Wonders 4 decided to announce a whole new season and even release the first thing of that. So we're getting even more DLC for Age of Wonders 4, which is one of my all-time favorite games. To speak to your point, Sonic Generations and Shadow. So I haven't gotten to talk to you about this. I own it. I beat it. Both of them. The Generations part and the Sonic Generations, which it was a Sonic game that was widely recognized that I had never gotten to play. So
so good. So good.
Yeah, it was all right. The Shadow one is better. Way better.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah. Like I played Generations, and there had been a lot of hype around Generations, but playing it, I was like, I don't love this. Like, I didn't get into it like I got into some other ones. I think there was a lot of, like, reuse of levels that kind of, like, made me feel icky about it, you know? And I don't know. There was a lot of stuff that felt tedious and extra. There was some really cool stuff. Like, the fights were really awesome. The big bosses were really cool. I thought some of the story was just downright silly. Like, it's a fucking birthday party that gets ruined. And then we're in a time plot. Like, it was very strange. But I wanted to beat that part before I did the Sonic Generations, the Shadow Generations. So then I switched over to the Shadow Generations, and man, is that fun! That is crazy fun. I enjoyed that. Oh man, top to bottom, like that game is awesome. That section of the game, I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed how they did the world a little bit better. I loved the Shadow through line in that. Is like the first, in my opinion, the first very cohesive, like they take the time to really like Shadow's always like there's a part of him over here and then there's a part of him over here lore wise, and like even in Shadow the Hedgehog you don't really get the whole thing, you know. Plus there's multiple endings to that game, so it's like what's the canon thing,
right?
Whereas this one is like it's a through line. We're gonna tell you everything that is Shadow from start to finish in an interesting and cool way, and that's what they do. They start it at the beginning right off the bat. There's like a prelude and it tells you all the backstory of Shadow leading up to it. And then they go right into it. You go through Shadow's whole story. They get a bunch of levels in there from previous Sonic games that they hadn't gotten in there before. And yeah, you just do this storyline with Shadow that's very, very cool and very shadowy. And I really enjoyed that part of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely something that I wanted to play. I mean, I'm a fan of the original Sonic Generations anyways. That was for what it was excellent. but I mean, outside of that, the shadow part of it, I do wish they kind of did it as like a DLC, more so than like a whole repackage. But whatever.
I agree, though. I will say the amount that you get with the shadow side of things, it really is like buying the sequel to the game and then just getting the game along with it. Like that's kind of how I felt. I didn't feel like the shadow part was any shorter than Sonic Generation, because Sonic Generations is actually pretty short if you just mainline it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
like if you're not doing all the special little extras and you're just going through the levels to get the Chaos Emeralds, you're through that game in a couple hours.
3-4 hours. Yeah.
And I feel like the Shadow Generations one is almost longer because it makes you do a bunch of extra stuff. So like I felt like there was almost more to the Shadow Generations one. So it definitely felt like a sequel that just came with the original game,
Mm-hmm. So from there, I mean, is that a lot of our good, positive sort of?
There's a couple other. I got to connect with some friends, like Sandrock.
Yeah,
Sandrock is 2024. Yeah. Like you guys can see us stream some of it. Not Sandrock, but us playing Sandrock is 2024. Playing Sandrock, yes. Like you can see us playing it a little bit on stream, and then we played it quite a few times off of stream. Mm-hmm. And like that was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing that with you guys. Yeah. I also with some other players that I don't like show this part to people, I got back into For Honor for a while, which was really cool to go back to that game that has been just part of my identity for so long when it comes to gaming, to go back in, see what's been added, get back in and do some fights and do it alongside of some people who are actually into it instead of alone. I even did some content for that for the channel. It was really nice to like re-enter some of those games or find some like community games to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one thing that's kind of sucked this past year for myself is I've come up with more time for doing things. Well, more time that I could potentially play games, but I have so many other things that I'm not able to do that. So, right. Go figure, life and whatnot.
Right. Life and whatnot, indeed. We can definitely talk about some of the bad now if you want. I will not be against it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the bad, and I wouldn't put this in like the ugly category because we kind of knew that it was coming. It just sucks that it happened. Just so many layoffs this year, man.
Yeah, agreed.
So many layoffs that happened when we were promised they weren't going to happen. Like it's been catastrophic with closures and just purging of people in positions. It's been rough.
Yeah, it has. We've lost like so many jobs. We've also started to kind of witness the cracks in what everybody kind of thought was like an ironclad business, which is the gaming industry. I feel like 2024 was the first time we were like, oh, we could lose the gaming industry quite easily. Like it could go away, like very easily for us. And I think that was that's one of the bummers of. Screwed something up here. You guys just lost his face. Give me 1 second.
I was like, what the hell was that? Because I heard something on my side.
No, I accidentally downed Discord, but I think that yeah, it really blows because you start to see that like. And like you and I have kind of always seen something a little bit negative, and there's been plenty of like human rights bullshit and all sorts of other shit that we've talked about in here. That's just a nasty business. Like we've talked about crunch before, which is a nasty practice, but we've never really seen like the cracks at the foundation of the industry that we've loved so much. And I think this last year really showed that like, oh, this industry is not. anywhere near as stable as what it is presented as. We've lost all of these layoffs because nobody seems to make money off of it. We've seen so many games fail, and then so many people double down on it. You look at Concord and Suicide Squad, and then those companies still are like, we're still going to make these. Whoa, okay, you just laid off a bunch of people and canceled a game after 2 weeks, but you're going to make another one of these? So, like we've started to really see that, like, as an industry, the juggernaut that has been the gaming industry for the last 20 years, since it came back, it looks like it's an unstoppable beast, right? Like, you could launch rockets at it and it would just smile at you. Now it kind of looks like that's all a show,
Yeah, and that's actually something I was going to bring up, because I would argue that's a little bit more than just cracks at the foundation. I think it's crumbling at this point, because we have had...
You don't have to argue. I agree.
We had something happen that was unfathomable. An entire whole-ass game was launched, existed for a single solitary week, and was killed like that.
Agreed.
Like, that is after millions of dollars and years of development, they said, oh, wait, shit, no. And then it also caused all these subsequent other games that were in development. At least Sony has seen, like, hey, maybe this isn't the best thing to do with all these live service games just by virtue of what they are and what they demand to be successful. Not everybody can have multiples of those games. If so, maybe like 2. Outside of that, you're not getting that return on investment from the business side of things.
Yep.
It's the hubris is starting to catch up is what it is, really.
Yeah,
it's I don't know, like it's hard to describe because it's so weird. Like, I would have never thought that somebody could put that much work into something. At least something like Suicide Squad, they lasted like a year. Anthem even lasted a little bit longer. For shit's sake, what was that other live service game that we were poking fun at basically for a while?
Oh, Babylon's Fall.
Babylon's Fall lasted longer. Like, what the hell?
Concord was just there and gone.
Concord was there and gone in a flash.
Yeah. And we're doing that with games that, like, require a player base. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even like a game that, like, is a narrative thing that's sales driven.
Right.
And yeah, we've definitely seen, like, a lot of falling from especially AAA games. I think AA games and single A games are in a much better position. And they are kind of almost in some ways thriving in this, but, like, the AAA just industry is just fucking falling apart at the seams, in my opinion. Now you have all these game companies, like, calling off whether their games are going to come out this year just because another game might come out. Like, that's nuts. Like, it's nuts. They can't decide what they're doing at this point. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I don't know. 2024 was interesting. Like, from a news standpoint, it sucked. But I will say one of the nice things about it was, like, the absolute pit fight that our Horrible Game Awards show was. I think almost every one of those awards was decided by one vote. Like, well, I don't think we've ever had that. We've had a lot of, like,
other relative close calls or like absolute blowouts.
Yeah, we had the absolute blowout of 2023, but, like, other than that, we definitely had a wide spread of games that would win. But, like, they weren't exactly like, we had a couple of close calls, but they weren't exactly like this year. Every award, all 8 of our awards, was decided by, like, within 2 or 3 votes. And that's crazy. That was fun to watch. I always say when I'm doing this stuff, because the foundation get 3 votes per category, but I specifically, to avoid the controversy of ties, I save my 3rd vote in all categories just in case it comes down to 2, so that I could just break it, right? So that we don't have to go through, like, I have to go back to some sort of tie-breaking, system. So, like, right off the bat, when I put the categories down, I make my personal votes with just 2 votes, and then I save that final vote, and I only tack it on if it's absolutely required. And like I had to use it a couple times because like they were that close. It was crazy. And I didn't even like it. I didn't like the power that was on me. Like, I have to decide how many of these? Like, I just have to decide it? Like, that's crazy to me, you know?
Yeah, this last year was, I wouldn't necessarily say the year of the indie. But, I mean, in some cases it kind of was. I feel like it kind of forced folks to get a little outside of their standard comfort zone when it came to gaming.
And what's crazy to me is I don't see a lot of big successful releases on the horizon, which is crazy to me. Like 2025, like I think could be an even bigger year of the indie. I mean, really, what we're looking at now in 2025 is Avowed, Monster Hunter Wilds in our near future, those two. I don't think Avowed is going to do good. I still don't think it's going to do great. Just what I've seen is not good, and the overall conversation online about it is not great. We've got GTA 6 kind of gumming up the works on everything else, and everything else that has been announced doesn't really have release dates, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like Microsoft did do their developer direct. We got some more information.
Train wreck.
Yeah,
we could have talked about that today, but I don't know. I wanted
honestly,
to.
The only thing I really gave a shit about, obviously, was Doom: The Dark Ages.
That could be a big one.
Which it could, and I'm tempering expectations on this because I'm seeing something with it after the deep dive. I don't know if it struck anybody else the same way, but 2016 Doom. Run, shoot, go, go, go. Doom Eternal was, hey, that, but more and faster.
Right.
Great. Awesome. This one, they basically straight up said, yeah, you're still going to be fast and there's still going to be guns, but everything's going to be slower and methodical. And I don't want that.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they've got that very interesting difficulty slider thing to where you can make the game be faster if you wanted, or slower, or anything. So, I mean, there's that, and they're going to take some interesting risks with changing up how some of the gameplay works overall, leaning more into melee, and they revamp that glory kill system. But it's kind of giving me a little bit of pause in how it's been presented. So yeah, to your point, it could be a big one. I'm certainly looking forward to, was it May 14th they said was the official release date? Yeah. I'm certainly looking forward to it, but with just a little bit of trepidation. I honestly think this year is going to be ruled by Nintendo.
Really?
I think it's going to be ruled by Nintendo because it's going to be, I mean, the Switch 2, it's imminent at this point. April, we're going to know a whole hell of a lot more. And I'm sure they're going to have, they're not going to have that Switch 2 come out with only one big title. They're going to have something in the holiday season as well.
See. I see where you're coming from. I think there are some big titles on the speaking of the developer direct, the South of Midnight actually looks really cool to me. I thought that was
interesting.
I think that's the first narrative based platformer game without character creation that's kind of tinged my interest in any way, shape, or form. I also think that Dynasty Warriors Origin turned out to be a surprise hit. I actually played the demo of that. I won't pay $70 for it, but it's one that I have on my wish list. I want to get that. The Claire Obscure, the Expedition, what is it, Claire? The Expedition 33 or whatever?
I don't know. I honestly didn't watch the direct. I only watched the Doom.
I watched it.
Doom thing.
I went through and watched all the trailers. So I watched the South of Midnight because there's only 4 trailers. That's all it was. Right. The South of Midnight, the Doom. Then they did the Expedition 33, which is coming out on everything. That's what's funny to me. It's not just coming out on Xbox. Like, it's hysterical. And then they did something else. I can't remember what the other thing was.
There's a Ninja Gaiden thing.
Oh, the
too.
Ninja Gaiden stuff. Yeah, which that doesn't interest me in any way, shape, or form. I'm not a Ninja Gaiden guy. I know my brother's going to be excited for that, but that's not me. The Expedition 33 looks really interesting, but like, I don't see anything that's going to blow me away. I will say I do like that I've seen a lot of narrative games this year, which is crazy because I'm not a narrative game guy necessarily, just to see them kind of like, please stop with the cookie cutout Destiny reskins. It seems to have at least slowed a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I think 2025 is going to be a good year overall. But I don't think it's going to be any better than 2024 necessarily was.
Yeah, no, I'm not expecting. I'm not expecting a banger year. No. I'm expecting a solid okay.
I'm hoping Monster Hunter Wilds is as good as Worlds was. That's all I'm hoping for, so that I can dive into that. But other than that, I don't see anything truly exciting in my although that also excites me too, because it means I get to go back and play my old games again and stay up with them. So all right, well, I think we've covered this. You want to switch to news?
Yes.
All right.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our final segment, the news. Neil collects smaller stories that don't necessarily deserve a talking point. Stories he wants us to riff on, tell you guys about, and here we go. Neil, how many you got, man?
So I got two of them.
One of them's a big one, though.
One of them's a big one. So I'm going to go with the stupid, goofy, dumb one here first to get it out of the way. Have you seen the whole Elon Musk thing?
Oh, which one? Which Elon Musk thing? It's like it's a stupid doofus. That guy's a stupid doofus. And it's like every day there's a stupid doofus thing about him.
So to kind of do a quick recap on this, because this has turned into an entire saga at this point. So I think we even talked about it briefly a while ago. So Elon Musk was like one of the top Diablo 4 players in the world.
Oh,
wow. This is really crazy. How can this guy run all of these companies, put his hat in the ring for politics, and be a top Diablo player? So then he also decides to do some like Path of Exile streams as well. And I'm not familiar with the game. So
it's
this is only
Diablo. It's like a better Diablo.
And this is just me regurgitating information. So bear with me on this. I have friends who
play that.
So. Yeah, so basically, dude is on stream and has no grasp of like basic systems and how the game works effectively. So people are starting to call him out and wondering what the hell is going on. Well, apparently the new twist in all of this is there are now leaked DMs from him to somebody else, basically admitting to boosting. He pays somebody to play games for him, so he is good on paper, and he doesn't have to actually do anything but just jump in and fiddle around with the games.
What
and
are
apparently
you getting out of that?
And what's even crazier is I was reading an IGN article. Well, I read the headline of it before I even came down here. That the devs of both Path of Exile and Diablo are being quiet as to whether or not they're going to ban him for boosting or not. Like this is turned into like a massive gaming controversy for absolutely no reason.
God.
It is the stupidest thing on the face of the earth.
All I had heard was that he cheated at Diablo. That's all I had heard. I didn't know the extent of it. This what do you get out of that? Like you've got to be that ego, like, you know what I mean? That egotistical. Like, that's not fun. You're not having any fun with that. It's just you have to look that big, like, at all times.
Especially if you're in like higher like tier gameplay. I can't speak to Path of Exile, but I know at least like with Diablo, it's all about like your cooldowns and character builds and stuff like that. So eventually you have to have been there for the build up to know what to do with your character to make it function properly.
Dude.
So I don't.
Dude, it's insane to me. Like the level that you would have to be at ego. Like his penis must be teeny, like absolutely minuscule.
It
like
can't
just
be fun.
coming from an objective standpoint. Like for you to do something like that, it's nuts, man.
It can't be fun either, because I can only imagine, like, I know even in tabletop gaming, like starting characters at a too high level, it would be like just starting somebody at level 20 in D&D. Just like, okay, here's your character sheet. Like, go. Like, what are all these things? What are these stats? What are these abilities? What am I supposed to do?
Right. Okay, say hi.
Hi, Neil.
That's Stella.
I figured. I heard just the quick, quiet.
She said hi, Neil.
Hi, Stella.
He said hi.
It's me, Stella. I play Minecraft.
Okay, we're doing a podcast and you should be in bed. Go get in bed.
Haven't had one of those in a while.
Yeah, right. It's absolutely ridiculous. So let's get into the big beefy one.
So the big beefy one that's making everybody mad, and I have a hat on this one, and I think you may agree. So I originally saw this on the website Gaming Bible, and apparently there are analysts out there who are hoping for and expect Grand Theft Auto 6 to cost somewhere around $100.
Mm-hmm. I did hear about this.
Here's my tinfoil hat. I think some analysts are Rockstar / Take-Two, whoever would be in charge of this, who just put the news story out there to get people talking about it, to
or other
reaction.
AAA game studios. People
They're
who
just
want
doing that
to be able to put their games
exactly.
$100.
Because if they can get away with it, they're going to absolutely do it. They were talking about it on, I don't know if you listen to Next Gen Console Watch on
I don't anymore. I know of
IGN.
it, and I have watched a little bit, but I don't watch it
Yeah,
anymore.
that somehow is still running when, there's not really new consoles coming out. They actually made a joke about it when they announced the Switch 2 last week. But anyways, but yeah, that's one thing that they were talking about. And somebody on there, I forget who it was that had said it, there are only certain games that can get away with it. And if it's going to be one, it's going to be Grand Theft Auto. Mm-hmm. But it's something that is also, they're testing the waters. They know exactly what they're doing. The 50 to 60 happened years ago. And only recently are we now dealing with the 60 to 70.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they try 80,
Look,
like right from the jump.
We're getting into a potential economic crisis, and this is just objectively like emergency tariffs were just put on anything coming in from Colombia. So all coffees,
I just saw that, yeah,
because they wouldn't let Trump's plane land, and so then Colombia raised the tariffs on us. It's a whole thing. This is going to continue with everything. And I'm not getting political out there, everybody. I'm not saying one way or the other. I have the people I like and don't like, and I like to keep politics to myself. That's always how I have to do it. But we're talking about money right now. That's what we're talking about. And if we're talking about our economy as a country increasing exponentially, which it already has quite a bit over the last few years, you can expect people to pay more money for recreational stuff. And I think some of this is the problem with AAA games already being at $70, is the fact that people don't have the money to. I do not know, other than maybe you, and I'm not insulting you, I'm just saying, other than you, I don't know anybody personally who has recently paid a full $70 for a game. Like, everybody waits for sales, everybody waits for deals, and that's killing these games that they're spending untold amounts of money on, because they're not getting that $70 price point. And because they've moved it up to a $70 price point, it doesn't sell right away. You look at, what was it, Veilguard, that recently they announced did poorly. Even though it did, 105 million copies or something like that sold. Look, despite what you guys think about Veilguard, whether it's a good game or a bad game, it didn't really look that good to me. But completely aside from that, that game sold quite well. It was very popular when it came out, and it was critically acclaimed. It sold plenty of copies. Just look at the amount, though, that it sold versus how much it needed to sell to make money. And there's where you have the problem, okay? Completely aside from whether you like the game or you don't like the game or whatever, I'm just saying, like, the real reason that game is being looked at as a failure is because they needed to make more than was realistically possible on it. So we're in this situation now where the AAA games company is playing chicken with the consumers, and they've been winning. They've always won these wars. They've always won these battles, and maybe that's why they think they can get away with it again. I don't think they can. I think there's already proof in the pudding when it comes to the AAA games market and the layoffs. I think a lot of that has to do with these AAA games already being at $70 and their bonus ones going up to 80 and 100 and 150. I think we're already in that zone of this is too much to pay. GTA 6, first of all, I am very skeptical that game is going to be good, just based on what I know about Rockstar at this point. That being said, it is GTA. It has that IP attached to it. I do not think it will be successful at $80. I do not think it will be successful at $90. I do not think it will be successful at $100. I do not think it will be successful at $70. I think it will be successful at $60, where games should be back since the beginning of time, okay? Or even cheaper. I think that we need to stop putting so much money into the game creation that we need to make too much to justify the game's creation in the first place. You know what I mean? We've got one side has swelled too much, you know?
Yeah, I honestly would love to see, and I feel like that's something that we could, if I sat down for an hour with a pen and paper, could figure out. If they released, the cost to make the game against the actual sales dollars and number of units sold, if they had increased the cost for the game like $10 or $20, if it would make those margins.
Yeah.
I would love to see if that would actually do it or not, because I feel like at that point, like, I'm by no means advocating for games to go from $70 to $80, but at least from the business aspect of things, maybe that could make more sense. And I understand, that's why they're moving to like live service, free to play, everything, or at least everybody was, to try to make up that money because there's money to be had there. It just sucks that, something like this, like gaming, is so deeply conflated intertwined rather with finances and the financial side of things, at least for how we look at things.
Agreed.
I mean, to the casual observer, somebody walks in to buy a video game, like, oh wow, this costs $60 now. Well, the price of everything else is going up, and they give their $60 and they walk away. Yeah. And I feel like to be absolutely fair, I feel like it's partially everyone's fault to some degree, more so on the companies than us, because
look, when
games maybe should have,
when the cost of living rises and the amount that people are spending on the consumers doesn't go up, then the consumers stop spending as much on recreational stuff.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's that simple. It's simple math. Like, you're talking about if coffee goes from, $4 a cup to $12 a cup, the people who need coffee to get through a day are going to spend less on their video games. If your house is more expensive, you know what I mean? The car becomes more expensive. The tires become more expensive. That's less money to spend on video games. I think that, like, the AAA market has like a lack of understanding as to what the common man in America is going through at this particular juncture, or has been going through for the last few years. I think that, like, they're out of touch with who they're trying to sell these games to, you know? And I also want to point out, shifting slight gears, GTA 6 is in a huge situation that people don't realize that they're in. And that is the fact that the reason that GTA 5 was so successful, because it's not just because it's a GTA game. It's a GTA game and GTAs sell good. But GTA 5 has been able to be the 12-year juggernaut that it's been because of GTA Online.
Mm-hmm.
That is where they have made all their money and where they keep selling copies, because when you buy that copy, you get access to the online thing, and then you get to buy DLCs, and you have access to a whole new world of microtransactions. And it is a very, very, albeit toxic, a very, very popular community, a large community of players who go in there regularly and do stuff. Jason, who listens to the show, Danny, who's been on the show, all of these people, they play GTA 5 online. They go in, they check it out every so often with the new DLCs, the new updates. That's why GTA 5 has been such a beast. You're now in a situation, though, where people have put 12 years into their stuff, into their online game, and you're going to be asking them to switch over, because there's no fucking way in hell that Rockstar makes GTA 6 and then just upgrades GTA Online from GTA 5.
Right.
It's going to be a whole new thing.
And to the point that you just made, I mean, the fact that GTA Online is really where Rockstar has made all the money. Mm-hmm. I mean, if GTA 6 comes with the GTA Online, there's no reason for them to sell that game over $60. Mm-mm. Well, $70, no. I guess, technically.
Yeah, there's no reason. They might. They might.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised
honestly,
at all, given Rockstar's ego. But there's no reason for it. And
I honestly am almost willing to put a pizza on it being 80.
I would not take that bet, because I don't want to owe you a pizza.
Yeah, because I feel
don't
like
have the money for a pizza right now. I think that it might be 80. I think that you might be right, and I think that it's going to kill it. I think that the people who have spent so much time in GTA 5 building up their worlds are not going to want to start from scratch in a new GTA. Like, I just don't see that happening. Or at least not at the speed in which Rockstar is going to need it to happen to make it be a success, you know? Mm-hmm. To recoup their funds, they have to make all this money in the first couple of months, you know? Right. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think that we have only heard negative stuff about this game so far. Like,
That's true.
There is not a positive buzz.
Yeah, there's the initial leak. That everyone was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And it was just like an early, not pre-alpha build.
Yep.
And then there was the trailer that everybody was like speculating everything over, which had absolutely no information about anything. Regarding anything with it. And now this rumored $100 some guy somewhere, like my uncle who works at Nintendo situation. Said that it might end up being $100.
You take a second and you look at our horrible, embarrassing failures of the past, right? Which Cyberpunk, right off the bat, comes to mind. Suicide Squad comes to mind. Both of those games, well, Suicide Squad not so much, but Cyberpunk had a great amount of hype going into that game. Like, it was, everybody wanted to play that game.
We wanted to play that game.
With the exception of the delays, there was no one out there. There was no negative press on that game. I think it's fair to say that, right? This has nothing but negative press so far. We have not gotten any positive press on this game that's supposed to be the greatest game in the world. I think that there's going to be a lot of players out there who don't want to play it just because they're trying to say that it's the greatest game ever made. And they're counter. They're going to be like, fuck you, bro. I'll play Fortnite or some shit. I think that you've got the people who are already invested in 5 who don't necessarily want to switch over. I think you've got a huge price point when our economy sucks ass. I think that like there is a storm of brewing for Rockstar, in my opinion, at this point, especially since I don't think it comes out this year. I think it comes out next year, and if it doesn't come out till next year, even more problems if they delay it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Do we have anything else to say about this one?
No, we do not.
So we're all done then.
We are all done then.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come out. We'll come back. Plug, and then we're going to go home. We're not going to go home.
We're going to go home. We're going to
go to bed. We're going to go to bed. That's what we're going to do.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. My good friend Neil, is there anything you would like to plug?
No.
That's fair.
We really don't have a whole heck of a lot going.
We'll have some more. We'll have some more coming up.
I know. We'll have some more. We're in that settling phase right now.
We're going to get it going. Here's what I want to do. Here's my mission right now. I want to get normalized. I've got a couple more things. I'm finally on a van route at work. So I know my hours to an extent. I need to get a couple more things finalized that are kind of up in the air. This stupid test. I put it in the opening of the last episode, but I'm still fighting with this fucking test. I got to get that thing resolved. And then once I get that resolved, I want to try and set up some Ordo nights so we can at least get Hunt 2 done. And then when summer comes around, which I know everybody, this is like 5-6 months coming. When summer comes around, I want to set up a stream again with The Lasso 3. Get that going. It doesn't have to be Sandrock. It could be Sandrock. It could be something else. Just the three of us goofing in each other in front of people. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally down to play with you guys privately. I do want to stream with you guys again.
Yeah.
At some point. I think that'll be a lot of fun. So those are my missions right now, my mission statements. I'm hoping to maybe get a couple to keep my stream going, and I'm also hoping to maybe get some video game content. Not as much, but a little bit out there coming up. So I'm starting to get normalized, starting to get used to this. Then I can start plugging away at some stuff, try and figure out some things. Because really, my main goals are to get Ordo's Hunt done, and to get Astral Drive back on track, which has not been on track. So I need to figure those two things out. And once I get those things figured out, we'll move on to other things. So, other than that, you guys can reach us on Facebook at Old Man Gaming DH. You can reach us on X at Old Man Gaming 9. You can also find us on Blue Sky. Just search Axiom Games LLC /Old Man Gaming. And then finally, you can join our Discord. Links in the description below. You can influence us in all of our shows from there. As long as you guys keep watching and you keep listening, we'll keep making them. See you guys next time. Pause.
You know what's been the most frustrating thing about building Kayla's PC?
Oh, what?
The fact that hers is going to be better than mine for like 60% of the cost of what I paid.
So welcome.
I got her graphics card because that's part of the reason why I messaged you the other day. Because like I know you had an AMD, stuff. And I know you're on the edge of like you're getting there within the next 2 years or so. Maybe
I am really dedicated to trying to keep this graphics card as long as I can and just see how long I can make this fucker last. Because I don't know how much bigger they're gonna. I don't believe that it's going to be able to not handle anything. I know they're producing like the 37th level above this, but like I'm not seeing anything that's making me think that I'm not going to be able to run most things on this graphics card.
At this point, it comes down to two things basically. Your video RAM and ray tracing capability. Yeah. Which is why, for the price point, I was looking for Kayla's graphics card because I told myself I'm not going over 400. There's no way I'm going over 400, and I got her one that meets all her wants. It had to be a white one because of her build, and I got her a 7600 XT 16 gigabyte variant.
So that's quite a bit more than mine.
Yeah, and I ended up paying, after everything was all said and done, it was like $350 for it.
That's
so
fine. That's cheaper than I paid for my 5600.
yeah.
I think yeah, it's gonna come down to the ray tracing and the RAM, but like ray tracing you can turn off. Like so,
Right,
like
right.
so what do I give
Well-
a shit about that?
Well,
you know?
that's the problem, though. Is like you've got games coming out now, like Indiana Jones. It's required, straight up and down required to have ray tracing turned on,
Which is annoying, yeah.
which is absolutely infuriating. And I feel like that's the way of everything now. I think they also had said too that Doom: The Dark Ages is going to have mandatory ray tracing as well.
Even with the ray tracing, though, I have encountered 2 games that have been above my required graphics card, like above the specs of my graphics card, and they ran just fine. Like, just fine. Like, Starfield required a 5600 XT, required, on its minimum requirements. I have 55. And, I have 55. It required 56. It was like 100 bigger than mine. It ran fucking fine on mine, other than the fact that it was a buggy piece of shit. It ran fine on mine, you know? Like, it's weird. I don't know that, like... I think it's kind of I think it's smoke and mirrors from the graphics card industry. I really do.
think there's a little bit of that.
I really
'Cause
think there's a lot of, like, if you don't have this, I'm like, okay, but, like, you haven't proved to me that if I don't have it, I can't play it, you know? Like...
And that's the problem too, is like there's a lot of times, like I personally, I could give 2 shits. All I care about is 1080p, maybe 1440.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about 4K. And I want a smooth frame rate. That's it. That's
Yeah,
literally
that's
all I
fair.
give a shit about. Ray tracing, who cares? But it's with how, like, I know, like with the Indiana Jones game, it was something with how something involved. I forget exactly what the reasoning was behind it, but it's like built into how the game functions. And they're going to just get to that point to, like you said, smoke and mirrors with everything, but they're going to force everybody down that path.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait for it. I really want to. I'm kind of playing an experiment right now. I'm playing chicken with the graphics card industry. Like, okay, motherfuckers, force me to switch my graphics card, because right now the only thing I want to put in this thing is a bigger SSD. That's it. Like, other than that, I want to run this fucker till the wheels fall off, like straight up. So, all right, well, let's get into the fan traction. We don't have a ton, so.